Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to the first video in our series. This is an introduction to PHP video tutorials. My name is Trevor, and a couple of things about myself. I'm from Texas in the United States. I went to the University of Texas at Austin, graduated in computer science, and I've been programming, well, as of recording this video, for about 6.5 years. And I started out by doing Java tutorials. So if you're interested in Java, you can check those out. They shouldn't be too hard to find if you just Google Java video tutorials. And so we're going to be talking about this site a little bit and how to get things started. So I'm going to go to my browser here. And you might ask why I'm using Internet Explorer, and the answer is because I can. So let's head on over to phpvideotutorials.com, and you can ignore the paths thing right now. This is just sort of temporary, but you'll get a page that looks kind of like this, and you can drag it around. And so here's a bit about this page. There's some information down here, and you can read this if you want. Here are our social media icons. So we have Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And then up here, these are actually how we represent our lessons. And this was inspired by the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. If you've ever played that game, they have these really cool constellation-based skill trees. And learning PHP is kind of like learning a skill, so we thought it would be cool to have this graph type thing that would help you go along these different paths. So here in the center, if you say return to center, we have these core nodes. So you start out at the center, and that's where you are now, and you go around this and you learn the basics of PHP. And then once you know the basics, you can sort of choose the path that you're most interested in. So this one here, for example, says classes and objects, and this path is object-oriented programming. So this would be the first lesson on that path, and then we get into like principles of object-oriented programming. And then this path, on the other hand, is about databases. So right now these are just examples. They will not be here for a while because we haven't recorded the lessons yet. But once you find a lesson that you're interested in, you can click on the node, and then it will open up this window here, and you can choose the video. And once you select the video you want to play, you can open it in YouTube or watch it right here, probably as you're doing now. And one more thing, these little circles on the end show a prerequisite order. So what that means is, in order to have the knowledge to understand everything in this lesson, you have to watch the videos in this lesson first. And sometimes you might see two paths join up like this. And this just means that there's two prerequisites. We have the principles prereq here, and we have the DDL prereq here, and they both go to this application. So that's how that works. And what's really cool is you'll be able to choose which way you want to go, and you won't have to follow a linear path, you know, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, like a lot of other tutorial sites out there. Okay, so our Twitter page is right here. It's just twitter.com phpvt. And you can follow us if you want to hear about our updates. And the next one is Facebook. And you can like us on Facebook, and we'll be posting information about updates here as well, if that's what you prefer. And then there is our YouTube channel. And you can subscribe to us here. And if you just want to watch every freaking video that we come out with, you might want to just subscribe to us here and watch them here. Okay, so now I want to briefly introduce what the role of PHP is in a website. So maybe you've done some web programming already, and you know how to make an HTML web page, you know about CSS. So where does PHP fit in? So this is the PHP wiki page. If you want to go read the introduction, that might give you a really formal description of PHP, but I'm going to talk about it very loosely here. PHP is a language that runs on the server side, not the client side. So the way I'm going to explain this is tell you a little bit about how HTTP communication works. So here's an example of how it works. When the user comes in and they type a URL into this bar and they hit enter, what happens is the browser looks at this portion of the URL, and it goes and it finds the server that this is referring to. So en.wikipedia.org refers to some particular server. So it sends this entire URL to that server, and then the server parses that URL and it says, well, I'm looking for this page. And so the server goes and finds that page and it runs some code perhaps, but it sends back a response. And the response is what's important because the response contains everything that we see on this page. The text and more responses with images and styling information, HTML, all that good stuff. But the question is, how does the server generate that response? Well, we're going to be using PHP to generate that response. If you've just used HTML in the past, you haven't used a server-side language to generate a response. The server that you're using just serves up raw text, the HTML that you write. But the PHP that we're going to write is going to actually serve up HTML. So when the HTML comes back to the browser doesn't even know or care that PHP created it. It just does the same thing that it does with any response. It renders the HTML and the CSS and executes the JavaScript, and it becomes this beautiful web page. Now the server we'll be using, which we'll get into in the next video, is called Apache, and PHP runs as a module within Apache and helps Apache generate the HTML that gets sent back to our clients. And remember, the client is just the user who accesses your website with a browser. And since PHP runs on the server, it's not going to be interactive with the user. JavaScript, on the other hand, is a language that is client-side and therefore is interactive. So come back in the next video and we're going to show you how to set up an environment and run your very own PHP applications.